guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming a highly requested video. So many of you guys asked me for this video, and I am filming how I study in nursing school. Make sure you get out a paper, get out a pen, and write some of this stuff down because I'm dropping gems, okay? Welcome to class, period. So first things first, in nursing school, you are usually going to have 2 weeks in between tests. So it really depends actually how long your term is. But when I had class from August to December, for example, we would have tests every 2 weeks and we would have 6 tests in that term. So every time I had a test, I would use that whole 2 weeks to study. But for example, if we had a test on Monday, I would take Monday off. I would probably take that Tuesday off, and then Wednesday I would be right back to studying and starting with the next test. Honestly, in nursing school, you really don't have that much time to not study, to be honest, like to relax. It's really grind mode, especially when you're in certain courses like med-surg or med-surg 2 or pharmacology, especially in courses that you struggle with. You need to take that full 2 weeks to study because it's a lot to know, and your brain is not just going to pick up this information in a week. You need to use that whole 2 weeks to study. Honestly, back in my prereq courses like math, even bio, like I would really study 2 days before the test. Don't ask me how I did that, but I did, and I did just fine. In nursing school, it's a whole different ball game. You have to start early and as soon as possible. So my recommendation is you take that whole 2 weeks to study for your test. Okay, so the first week of studying for a test, it's all about notes, okay? It's all about notes. For me, personally, I highly recommend that you take notes, handwriting the notes in a notebook in order to prepare for the test. Now, the reason why I say this is because it's actually proven that when you handwrite notes, it stays in your brain better. And I just think that it would be helpful for a lot of people to physically write out their notes instead of typing it on the computer. Now, if typing it out on the computer works for you, then by all means continue to do that. But personally, I recommend handwriting out your notes. So depending on what your test is, for example, if your test is focused on the cardiovascular system and its conditions, you will know like what conditions are going to be on your test. So for every single condition, I would write it out, okay? And I would go into very great detail. I would usually pull up both the textbook, and then I would have the teacher's class slides right next to each other. And from there, that's how I would get my notes. 9 times out of 10, on your teacher's class slides, like, it's going to be very brief. It's never going to tell you everything that's going to be on the test, okay? Like, they're not just going to fully hand you the information. Usually it's kind of just an outline and maybe like some important key things to remember. But I am telling you guys, you need to get the textbook, and you need to have the textbook out next to the class slides, and you need to be reading what it says in the textbook and writing it down. It's very important for your notes to be organized. Usually what I would do is I would start out, of course, write down the condition, write down exactly what that condition is so that it's understandable to you. If you don't understand what the condition is, go on YouTube, type in whatever condition it is, press search, and I promise you, you will find bomb videos explaining it to you, okay? YouTube is amazing. Like, I can't, seriously. Registered Nurse RN, she is such a good teacher on here for nursing. Like, if you haven't watched her videos, definitely go and watch them. She breaks down conditions to the T. She really helped me get through nursing school. But anyways, as I was saying, write down the condition, write down exactly what it is, watch a YouTube video if you need to. Then you're gonna go ahead and you write down the risk factors. Don't just write down some risk factors. If the book states like 10 risk factors, I highly recommend to write down all 10. Same thing for manifestations. A lot of times it's a lot of manifestations, and you know, sometimes people will say, okay, I'm only going to write down the most common ones. Let me tell you why that's not going to work. Select all that apply questions have no remorse. They have no remorse, okay? Like, if you just study the most common symptoms, I promise you there's going to be a symptom on there that you didn't study, and now you got to select all that apply wrong because you didn't know about that symptom. It's so important. Whatever the textbook says, write it down. So I would write down every single symptom that textbook said, and I would not skip over it. I wouldn't. Honestly, my brain wouldn't even let me skip over it, because I would just like feel like, oh my god, no, that might be on the test, let me write it down. And that's why my notes are so extensive. But hey, it helped me because I knew a lot. Nursing interventions are very important. Write that down. Treatment, drugs, you need to know the drugs. Just because you're a med surg and it's not pharmacology doesn't mean you're not going to be tested on the drugs. They will be testing you on the drugs. So write down the drugs and make sure you know the symptoms of the drug as well, because pharm will still appear on med surg tests. So being honest, my notes would honestly take me probably 4 or 5 days to write, just because, like I said, I'll be writing down a lot of the information, and it took a while. Now, don't think that writing down notes is not studying, because it is. Like I said, when you write down notes, it will be drilled in your head, and you will more than likely remember like 50% of the things that you wrote down. So don't think that you're not studying. Don't think that it's wasting time writing down these notes. It's definitely very helpful. So now it's the second week. This is the most important week, okay? It's grind time. You have to drill these notes now. Now here's where I'm dropping gems, because this is how you pass nursing school, okay? Get out the paper, get out the pen, write this down. When you're about to study these notes, you need to study these notes like you are the teacher. So you need to be the teacher of the class, wherever. If you're sitting on your bed, if you're at your desk, whatever, you need to now start acting like you're a teacher. And when I say that, I mean that you're going to talk out loud. You're going to say the information out loud to yourself. So I'm just going to give you guys an example here of what I mean. So for example, let's say our condition that we were studying was type 1 diabetes. So first things first, what is type 1 diabetes? Now I would literally be talking to myself like this. Type 1 diabetes is a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. Okay, so I would say it out loud to myself. Once I can repeat it back to myself, that's when I know I can move on to the next thing. So then I would move on to the risk factors of type 1 diabetes mellitus. So risk factors for type 1 diabetes includes family history, age, genetics. Y'all see what I mean? So, okay, now we're going to take it back. What is type 1 diabetes? Type 1 diabetes is a condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. What are the risk factors of type 1 diabetes? The risk factors of type 1 diabetes are family history, age, and genetics. That's how I know it. Moving on to the symptoms. Then I literally keep going, okay? And I keep going until I'm down to the last thing, which is usually treatment and drugs. And I speak it out loud to myself. I talk to myself the whole way through. And once I'm done, I literally run it back from the top to the bottom. And that's how I know that I know the information. Now, honestly, like that kind of seemed very simple and very easy, and it is so much more in depth than that, because like there's so much more to know than that, obviously. But I was just giving you guys an example. So that's what I would do. Honestly, like I said, like this would take days to really drill all of these conditions. Is going to take days, so start as early as you can. Now, a lot of people are probably going to say that like talking out loud to yourself is kind of like memorizing the information, and you're not supposed to memorize information, you're supposed to understand information. Let me tell you guys something. Sometimes things have to be memorized, okay? You can talk out loud to yourself and still understand and comprehend the information and everything that's going on. But sometimes some things need to be memorized. Symptoms, yes, some symptoms, you know, you have to understand because it's related to the condition, and you know, it's a whole process of why it happens, and everything's all related and blah 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 blah. But some symptoms, there is no reason why that symptom occurs with that condition. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes things need to be memorized. Just make sure that you're formatting your information very clearly, and once you have that down, it's time to drill it and become a teacher to yourself. Once you start doing this, at first it might be very weird to like be talking out loud to yourself, but once you start to do it more, I think you're going to realize that you are remembering the information so much better by being a teacher and talking aloud to yourself. Another very important thing that you need to do is you need to take practice questions. I promise you, you're gonna see a lot of these questions pop back up again on the test, and it's usually not going to be worded the same way, but it's probably going to be like the same exact thing that question was asking, just worded a little bit differently. So make sure you take practice questions. If you get a question wrong, go back in the book, look and see what you did wrong, and then re-study that information so that you know it for next time. That's so important, and that's how, you know, you're really going to become competent in understanding this information. So another recommendation so that you can keep your sanity while studying is to give yourself breaks. Okay, I know you hear it all the time, but seriously, you have to give yourself breaks or else it's just going to be too much. So now I know some people say like study 30 minutes and give yourself a 15-minute break, or study an hour and then give yourself a 15-minute break. That's not gonna work for me, because I will be on my phone for like an hour, you know what I'm saying, and it was supposed to be a 15-minute break. So like I can't just study for an hour and then go on my phone, because then I'll be on my phone for an hour and now I'm just wasting time. I like to take a break when I feel like I've accomplished enough and I can take a break, and that's usually after like 3 solid hours of studying back to back. Then I'll go ahead and take a break, because now I feel like I've learned a lot. You know what I'm saying? I can't just study for an hour and it'd be like, all right, break time, and then be on my phone, because I'm gonna be on my phone way more than I was studying, you know? So I give myself like 3-4 hours of focusing on the books, drilling these notes, and then I go ahead and I take my break. How many hours do I study? It really depends on what week it is. So when it comes to notes, I'm not gonna lie, I take notes for a while. It kind of takes me a while to take my notes since they're so in depth. But if I started taking notes at like 10 a.m., I would probably be done at like 5 p.m. realistically. This is a very realistic video, and I'm very serious. Like 10 p.m. to 5 p.m. I mean 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah. And I'll be like for 4 days, 5 days, and the rest of the time is drilling notes. So now when I'm drilling conditions, I'll usually give myself like 2 conditions a day. I don't try to study 5-6 conditions in a day, because the information is going to go like this. Now you got symptoms mixed up, like you got type 1 diabetes mixed up with type 2, and you got like, you know, what else, appendicitis mixed up with intestinal obstruction and all this other stuff. Okay, so you have to take it condition by condition if you need to. That might take some time, but take it condition by condition, or study 2 conditions in a day, which is usually what I did, either 2 or 3, but usually it was about 2 conditions in a day. And at the end of the night, when I studied those 2 conditions, before my head hit that pillow, I would go back and I would talk out loud, and I would run through every single condition without looking at the notebook. I don't know if I stressed that before. When you're a teacher to yourself, don't look at the notebook. You got to test yourself. You know what I'm saying? Can you talk and say the information and know it without looking at your notebook? Because if you do, you know the information. Okay, so I would do a run through, and I would, if let's say I studied type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes that day, I would run through the information. I would go through type 1 diabetes, say everything, go through type 2 diabetes, say everything, and if I knew it, I was good. I knew I was good. Okay guys, I think I touched on everything. I really hope that I did. If you have any more questions, leave it down below and I will answer it. I always answer my comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you took some notes on how to study in nursing school and pass. And I will see you in my next one.